Hey everybody, welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. Got a new property down in Socorro County. Socorro County, of course, is very popular with our buyers because, as you can see from the headline, there are 0 planning and zoning restrictions in Socorro County. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the video, but the point here is that the kinds of things that you can't do in other parts of the state, such as build a tiny home or just camp for indiscriminate periods of time in an RV, are things that you can do down here. And what makes this even better is the size of the lot. So there are additional restrictions you'll find in New Mexico that you won't have to worry about here. So with all that said, this is the type of lot that appeals to a lot of our buyers, and maybe it will appeal to you. Let's find out. This one is reference number SCNM-4117 as noted, it's located in Socorro County. This is 1+ acres in the Rio Grande Estates subdivision, and as you saw up top, this 1+ acre property is priced at $1,600. Let's bring this up on a map, show you guys exactly where this is, then we'll get into some specifics here. As with all of our listings, we have GPS coordinates down here, which when clicked will bring it up on Google Maps. Unlike our other listings, we only have the center point. We do not have the corner points of the property. The reason why will be discussed later in the video, so hang with me if you are curious about that. So here we go. Up on Google Maps, the property appears. Let's pull back first and just talk about where this subdivision is within New Mexico itself. So if you're familiar with Albuquerque up here in sort of the north central part of the state, this property is roughly about 40 miles south. If we right-click and measure distance, you can see, yeah, about 40 miles as the crow flies. Of course, you're over here just north of the 60, so you're going to take that over the 25. And then you run up the I-25 corridor into nearby Albuquerque. So if this is land that you're buying as, you work in Albuquerque, but you want some place outside the city where you control your own piece of real estate, where rent is never going to go up, but you're going to commute regularly into the city to work or whatever, it's probably about a 40-minute drive up the highway. Of course, you've got the Rio Metro here in nearby Belen. So if you don't want to deal with the traffic, just come up here and take the Rio Metro up, and you'll be up there pretty fast. Zip, zip, zoom. As noted, it's located in the Rio Grande Estates subdivision. That subdivision is really all this land, or most all this land, that you see just east of the I-25 over here. This is another one of these regions where developers came in back in the 60s and bought up a couple thousand acres of land and chopped it all up into mostly 1-acre parcels. This whole subdivision are pretty much 1-acre parcels. So the benefit with something like that is that a lot of developers didn't do that in New Mexico. You'll find subdivisions like up here in Valencia County where everything's a 1/4 acre or a 1/2 acre. Of course, that really limits what you're going to be able to build. A lot of these developers did that prior to sort of uniform environmental law becoming a thing within the state in the 70s. And essentially, New Mexico Environmental Department, if you're in undeveloped sections like this, they don't want a well and a septic too close to one another on a property. So it almost demands that you have at least 3/4 of an acre. Now, there's workarounds for that. Some people find them to be a little too expensive to execute. So the point is that when you have a property that's over 3/4 of an acre, you won't have to deal with those environmental concerns, with those types of restrictions. So that's the additional benefit of a subdivision like this, is that everything out here is 1 acre. Everything out here allows you that freedom. Speaking of freedom, it's because it's in Socorro County, there are 0 planning and zoning laws out here. So as noted earlier, the kinds of things, the kind of sort of quote-unquote unconventional lifestyles that you can't have without getting fined endlessly in other parts of the state are acceptable down here. Now, this specific property, as you can see, sits just north of the 60. I mean, really just a few lots north of the 60. The benefit, of course, about being right here is that, as you can imagine, well, let me actually just take the little guy here and just put it down here on the highway. When you are this close to the highway, what you get are a couple things. Number one is there's power immediately at the highway, and it runs, it runs a little bit into the subdivision. It doesn't go all throughout the subdivision, but you're certainly at a place where you're going to have access to power. There's power on the lot line here, number one. Number two, because you're so close to the highway, you can anticipate that this is a well-trafficked road, which means access to the property is going to be very easy, something you could pull off in any vehicle type. So if you don't own a giant truck, that's okay. You're still going to be able to get back and forth. Another nice thing here is that, of course, because you have easy access to the 60, it's just a quick trip over to the I-25, whether you're going north into Albuquerque or, say, south into Elephant Butte. If you want to spend your weekends down by the lake, largest body of water in the state, should be an easy trip down there for that. etc. I will have you guys know there is a little diner that exists just over here, just south of the 60. So also a little diner pretty close to this property. I can't attest to the quality of the food, but just an FYI, there's a little diner down there. So maybe you make that a regular spot for your breakfasts. I don't know. Whatever the case, let's just get back to talking about the neighboring lot here. So as noted, this is a 1+ acre property. It is safe to say that this guy, whatever the size shape of this property is, it's safe to say that this property is similar size and shape. Now, of course, if you go to map view right here, you're not going to see the plat overlay. Socorro County is incredibly uncooperative, whatever, when it comes to sort of demonstrating these things through the traditional types of software that's available out there to demonstrate them, like, what Google uses. So we have a demonstration down here, Google Earth view, of the sort of size, shape, location of this property. I just want to make clear there's this little thing right here. It looks like some sort of utility station. Let me just pull up a picture of this. You can kind of get a sense of what this looks like. I have no idea if this is on the subject property or if this is part of the neighbor's property. I'm going to guess it's on the subject property. I'd say that's a safe assumption. So, 1+ acre of land, that's a pretty good chunk of land right there. If having something like this on your property makes you a little squirrely, you say, I don't want this, I don't want to deal with this, or even just the fact that you're going to be next to a neighbor, the fact you've got a neighbor to the north of you. Maybe you don't want to deal with that. That's understandable. We're going to have other properties in Rio Grande Estates that you can look at, that you can size up. Maybe those will fit better for you. But if you really like this location, if you're saying to yourself, hell, 1 acre of land is pretty big, I'm never going to see or hear from this person anyway, who cares? Then I think this is a pretty good location. The fact that there is power at the lot line is going to be a large benefit to you. Now, so we have some photos down here from the 60 itself, and then, of course, from the turnoff here at Garcia. Hang on a second. Is it Garcia? No, well, Sandoval. It's one of these, actually, where the road has two different names, depending if you look at the plat or if you look at Google Maps. This is a doubly named street. It's, I don't know, it's Sandoval on Google Maps. I think it's Garcia on, yeah, Sandoval on Google Maps, and I'm pretty sure it's Garcia on the plat. Let me see. Yes, it's Garcia on the plat. So, who knows? But it seems to be labeled Garcia, so we'll go with that. Anyway, point being, you're right here, right off the highway. This is the entrance to the diner place that I was talking about. Of course, we don't have actual photos of the diner, but there you go. Anyway, more photos here of Garcia, and then photos from the actual property itself. You can see that this is pretty level terrain. It's going to be easy to build on, easy to park on, whether that's an RV or a mobile home that you're going to put a permanent foundation on or you're not. Over here, you can see here are some neighbors, or here are some people who own some land over here. They've got their RVs out. Nobody is hassling them about that. So, these are the benefits of the land, particularly for those of you who call us all the time saying, quote, unquote, I don't want anyone to tell me what I can and cannot do with my property. People who are adamant about that typically like Socorro County. So, and of course, you've got the really nice views over here of the Manzano Mountains. And you can see that there are some little residences nearby. Power throughout this part of the subdivision, at least the part of the subdivision that's closest to the 60. Blah, blah, blah. Now, a couple things I want to make you guys aware of. Number one, Socorro County Planning and Zoning. Click this link. It's going to take you to this website. There are a lot of times where people who do what I do will say there are no zoning, there's no restrictions. There are. They just don't know about it. So they just try to slough it off like, oh, there's not. Socorro County has a zoning and permitting website which says right here, quote unquote, Socorro County does not have a zoning or permitting ordinance. At this time, there are no county regulations or restrictions on the use of real property. Blah, 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 blah. So I feel like Socorro County wrote that on a website because they were getting tired of getting the question. That being said, I do like to demonstrate that to you, the potential buyers, to say that, those sorts of restrictions do not exist. Now, let's be clear, guys. There's federal law, there's environmental law, there's building codes. You're going to have to adhere to something, okay? But the typical zoning ordinances that exist about minimum square footage or about can't park X, Y, and Z on your property or, whatever, those do not exist. So, just wanted to point that out, number one. Number two, we also have some helpful resources here. If you are thinking about buying this property, you're wondering how am I going to get power hooked up out here, what's my source of water, etc. PNM is the local utility. It's actually not up on the listing page. It will be by the time this goes live. Whatever the case, when you click that link, it will take you to their website. PNM, of course, is the local utility services this region. You can reach out to them, say, hey, I'm buying some property. It's down just around the 60 in Socorro County. You guys have already got a power line on the property. If I build X, Y, and Z there, what is it going to cost for me to get hooked up to the grid? Obviously it's going to be a lot cheaper and, logistically less complex because it is already on the property. But you may want to have that conversation with them in advance of making a, whatever $1,600 purchase. Now, additionally, we also have a link here to the New Mexico State Engineer. This is the office that is responsible for permitting all residential and commercial wells within the state. So if you want to talk to them about getting permit to put a well on the property, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe that's going to be too expensive for you and you're more interested in holding tanks, something like that. Maybe this is just going to be a property that you vacation on occasionally, or, you drive through New Mexico a lot and you just want a place that you can stop, spend the night, and not have to worry about, hotels, things like that. Speaking now specifically to truckers who we sell a lot of land to, well might not be your concern. I don't know. But if it is, these are the people you're going to want to talk to. Or, of course, we always recommend local vendors in the area, people who drill wells for a living out there. They can speak to you with greater authority about what the water table is like, how far down you're going to have to drill, what they're going to charge for you to drill, etc. Typically when you bring up something on a map like this and you see residence, multiple residences within close proximity, it tells me that the water table is fairly accessible and you shouldn't have difficulty with that. But as always, we encourage our buyers, this is part of your due diligence. Make sure you reach out, ask the questions that you need to ask prior to spending this kind of money. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, with all that said, this is a quick video, quick introduction to the property. We've got some property-specific notes here, not much more than what I've already discussed. I do just want to show you guys, because I mentioned it earlier, that this is roughly about 90 miles north of Elephant Butte Lake. Hang on, there we go. Elephant Butte Lake right down here. So if we right-click and measure distance, boom, there we go. Roughly about 90 miles, 90 minutes. Going down the highway, you're probably doing 70, 75, something like that, so you probably make it there a little bit faster. Whenever I do these videos and I talk about Rio Grande Estates, I always fail to mention that giant body of water that is so close by, but of course that provides a lot of great opportunity for weekend excursions, camping, fishing, boating, so on and so forth. So kind of right in your backyard. We'll round off for conversational purposes and pretend like it is. Anyway, if this is something that you are interested in purchasing, guys, here's all you have to do. Come up here, click the Buy Now button. It's going to bring up the secure checkout page. We ask you for a couple important pieces of information. What name or names do you want on the deed? You, your wife, your husband, your kids, your dog. Not really the dog, but you get the point. Tax address. Where's Socorro going to send their annual $20 bill for property taxes? Click agree to the terms of service right here. Click the next button. On the next page, we'll ask you to enter credit or debit card information. Once you do that, we are the owners of the property as far as we are concerned. Once you do that, you are now the owner of the property. That being said, the process goes a little something like this. We're going to get in touch with you. Within 24 hours, we're going to have an email to you with a copy of the new deed, along with some supplemental documentation. Once you tell us the deed is good, we spelled your name right, things like that. We're going to autograph it, notarize it, mail it off to Socorro County. They're going to record it, and then they're going to forward it on to you. So, as noted, once you give us money, we don't care what you do. Go out there, start building, start camping, start living, etc. But practically speaking, it'll be about 3 weeks before you have that recorded deed in your hands. FYI. If you guys have any more questions, leave them here on the YouTube channel. Shoot us an email, support@hemingwayland.com, or give us a call, 702-919-7170. Would love to hear from you. With all that said, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.